Welcome to the upstreamlive.com. I'm your founder and editor, Vishal Krishna. I love talking AI. AI and security are very important. Security is something that we think is worldly and very few of them understand it, but it's very commonplace. So I've got ManageEngine's head of security, AI security to be precise, to talk about this subject. This is Sujatha. Sujatha, what did we talk in the podcast, and can you summarize it quickly for
Sure.
them?
So we're really talking about how security has transitioned from a good to have to must have.
Correct.
About how threats have evolved, how it's important to strengthen the security and privacy posture.
Absolutely.
And how, again, we are in a security, privacy aware world, how you're going to evaluate offerings and how you're going to result that in bettering your posture here.
For all you new age CTOs, CIOs, the posturing of the AI security is very important. That's what we're going to talk about.
Exactly.
And by the way, AI readiness is very important. And I'm at the user conference of ManageEngine on March 4th and 5th in Mumbai. I hope to learn from you what AI readiness is. I'm happy to discuss, but at the moment, watch this podcast, send me questions so I can get Sujatha to answer that posturing about.
Definitely.
Be AI ready, even with security. Sujatha, thank you for coming to the upstreamlife.com. You know, I love talking AI. I've been talking about it for the last 1 year, and I've been fascinated every time I talk about it because of the social change, economic change that it's adding value to. It's adding value to enterprises. It's adding value to people like me who are the consumers. You know, you're the head of AI security at ManageEngine. And when I look at a position like that, is it a very daunting position?
I wouldn't say it's daunting. It's very exciting to be in this space. So it's challenging, I mean, how you cater to enterprise security. Now that security is at the forefront, we're in a very security and privacy aware world.
I agree.
How are you going to strengthen the security posture? How are you going to fit AI here to make it better? It's a very challenging and exciting space to be in.
Okay. Your team, what do you typically do? I'll start off with a question. I have a lot of clients from America, and most of them are legacy companies.
Okay.
They have IT, which is critical. They want to move into this quick app development mode, which is low code, no code movement. And then they have security, which is so important in this era. And then there's AI to top it all off. It's like an ice cream with a cherry on top.
Perfect.
Right?
Yeah.
So I want to get into this conversation quickly because it's about AI and security. Where do they begin? I mean, typically a young CIO, CTO, I know the young generation is born into the cloud, but they also have to manage legacy because a lot of the large corporations are on legacy systems, unless they're a young organization, which probably are born in the cloud. So where do we begin? I'll leave that to you.
Perfect. So if we look into the security space,
the history, perhaps.
The history of security space. So if you look at it probably in the last 1 decade, it was more about security was one domain that was ruled by rule-based systems and static thresholds. So I'll probably give you an example. So let's say there's an internal file download server in an organization, and which hosts the kind of internal documents that are meant only for internal consumption. And they put a policy saying not more than 500 downloads would be allowed per day. And let's say there's an insider attack. So insider attack is a place where there's a malicious actor who's part of the organization who have valid credentials. So there's no credential stuffing attack. There's no incorrect authorization happening. So everything is perfect. But they are the malicious actor who are trying to create the havoc there. So how do you handle such cases? They would know the rule book. They would know that not more than 500 downloads are allowed. So they'll try to, fence this. They would probably make some 490 downloads a day or 450 downloads a day just to ensure they don't cross 500, because the moment they cross 500, an alarm is going to be raised. But these scenarios would kind of go unmissed. Was it a static rule that said not more than 500? Because typically it would be around some 300 downloads a day that would happen. But the organization has put a rule that not more than 500. But even if it is 490, this is kind of going unnoticed. But bring in AI to this picture. So these static thresholds, they are going to be replaced by dynamic thresholds that are custom made for that data. So the AI models here, they're going to understand what the baseline normal is. So they understand that usually it's only some 300 downloads that happen, but all of a sudden there's a 10% or 20% increase now. So I'm seeing some 360 downloads or 400 downloads a day. This is something that's kind of cautious. So it catches it in the moment. So we're able to take a much more proactive stand than a reactive stand here. So this is how AI helps here. So I can give you another example of how malware has become much more intelligent. So talking about malware that's there in the industry, it's circulating today, is much more intelligent than the malware that was circulating a decade back. Yeah.
Can you give us examples into malware being, very proactively damaging things?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So, again, like I was saying, malware today is much more intelligent in reading off your antivirus solutions. So if I'm only going to look at the basic signatures of the malware and try to find out, hey, this exe is something that's kind of malign, I'm in for a toss, because the EXEs, the malwares, can masquerade as genuine ones in such intelligent way. So it becomes important to use AI here to understand what the behavior of the executable or the file is. So typically, malwares will try to do some notorious action. They will try to meddle with your registry keys, meddle with the boot options, basically try and create havoc in your system, do some data exfiltration attack. So in such cases, AI algorithms here, they can understand what the behavior of the executable is rather than just looking at the signatures, and then help you take the extra stand in protecting your systems.
It's interesting. The key word there would be employees. This happens internally, where some bad actors, they would put in this malware, masquerade that malware, where it would learn by itself and masquerade as well, right? So that could be done through the network or through employees within the network, right?
Yeah.
So it's interesting. For me, there are two aspects of this. AI can detect both.
Yeah,
That's what you're trying to say.
So, yeah.
Right? You may not know which individual, the individual may have left the organization for all you know, but has put this intelligent thing and left, maybe. Maybe there's a network breach that's happened as well. But the AI today is in such a level that can notice these changes.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
You want to talk to me technically on how, let's say, I'm a legacy company that's signed, like you say, right? You were saying to me earlier that everybody makes it a tick box. It's a, to have to must have now.
Yeah, true.
Right? It's going in that direction. But let's see, if I'm in the to have moment, I've just bought some security layers, but these attacks are happening constantly and I am caught unaware. When incidents happen, I react.
True.
And then the CEO says, hey, this is not done. This is affecting my bottom line. And it's affecting my brand value outside because people are talking about it, right? This happens.
True.
So where do I begin in protecting myself in the to have to must have world? How do I plan that journey?
Yeah, so one thing is to ensure you are digitally mature first. AI maturity doesn't mushroom overnight. So it's important all your processes are digitized first. So typically enterprises have this interdepartmental digital divide. So you call the accounts payable, when you call the facilities team and say, hey, AC at this location is not working.
Yeah.
But you email the payroll team saying some reimbursement is is yet to happen. So it's important all the processes first, they leave a digital trail. Only if they leave a digital trail can you even have AI chime in and help you in the process.
AI is only good as the data that's in the process.
True. And for data to be digital, it's important all the processes leave a digital trail first. So when you have different departments in an enterprise, the one good thing is to stitch them together. Probably have a low-code, no-code platform that's probably pulling in data from that has a call transcription facility. So I call the facilities team, the call is recorded, it's automatically transcribed. And again, if you're administrator, I could quickly generate a summary in case it needs to. If it's about an issue, one can raise a ticket. The ticket raising can automatically happen.
Right.
So this kind of digital transformation has to first happen. That would be the precursor to attain AI maturity. And once this is done, again, security is naturally weaved it into the process.
Okay, so they are moving into a from must have.
From must have to from good to have to must have.
Yes, that's the differentiation. The good to have means, okay, I've just signed up things. That's it. But that's being reactive.
Exactly.
So to move to proactive, you're saying I'm going to transform myself, and I know where at every layer there's data, and through that I know that the AI can now be trained to capture malware or whatever. Am I correct in saying that?
Okay, so
please explain, please.
Oh yeah, sure. So what I would say is, once these are like in place, your digital maturity is in place, all the departments leave a digital trail. You have a low code, no code, probably bridging that interdepartmental digital divide. You have, the entire process is digitized. You have data ready, and now you can have AI use cases perfectly fit in. And talking about security, we are in one security and privacy aware world today, right? So I think even in the consumer space, the retail space, there's a lot of awareness about data leaks and whatnot.
Yes.
See, a decade back, if we traveled in train, there was one entire chart that would be stuck in the compartment's entrance, right? Your name, which birth have you been allotted? All the details would be there. But today we don't see that happening. In fact, we've transitioned to having masked Aadhaar being given during the hotel check-in processes. So all of this throw light that security is something that's being taken very seriously today. And if this is happening here, the enterprises will be leaps ahead, because they have very strict data governance rules, compliance, security guidelines to follow. So it's only important, and any security mishap, any data breach or any attack is going to cause it's going to put such a huge dent in the reputation. And not to forget the fines that it could possibly be associated.
Especially in the type of industry you're in.
True.
Healthcare can kill you.
Exactly. So it's important you're compliant to all the privacy security guidelines that are there. So for example, if you're in healthcare, it's important you're compliant to HIPAA guidelines there.
Yes. I want to go further deeper. Because we're talking sophistication, and I thought this is for the younger audience, and obviously they would know the sophisticated attacks that happen, probably read about it. But in your experience, what are these sophisticated attacks that are happening? In my generation, phishing.
True.
You know that there are bots hiding there. But can you go deeper into the sophistication, and what have you seen as the head of AI security? And how can you, and perhaps give us tips on handling each of these things?
Perfect.
Perhaps we can spend a moment there.
Yeah, sure. So maybe we'll start off with phishing and see how phishing has become sophisticated, and we'll probably move into the enterprise segment. So at least a few years back, the notation of a phishing email was something that was worded poorly, something that would have spelling mistakes, and they would say, click on this button to get the bonus.
And it's not genuine.
Yeah, absolutely. But the phishing emails that are circulating today, they are no more worded poorly. They are like worded picture perfect. The links, the phishing links are, you would, at the first glance, you would actually mistake it to be a genuine link, right? And given the state of digitization, not everyone is going to be digitally aware. So it's only important you use AI to the defense. See, today, using the AI technologies that are available, I can probably use LLMs to generate such a convincing phishing email that would
that's the sophistication.
Exactly. So that is the kind of sophistication that we see today.
So they know how to hook you on now.
Exactly.
Click on this bonus.
Exactly. So it's not like, it's not a poorly worded email. It's a well-worded email. The way AI capabilities are available to everyone, it would help businesses. It's also going into the hands of attackers to kind of...
Why not?
Yeah, exactly.
We are humans after all. Correct.
True. Yeah, so it only becomes important to combat AI attacks with AI-powered defenses.
So it's possible today, when you say AI-powered defenses, is that particular terms, I know a lot of fancy terms get used, but what are these defenses?
So let's talk about phishing. Yes. So we were having that example. So if my phishing detection engine is only going to look at the content and say, hey, it's not poorly worded, it's probably okay, I'm in for a toss. So phishing is no more about looking at a poorly worded email. It's about going deep, analyzing the features.
Well said.
From which domain is it coming? How early was the domain registered? Yes. What is the IP reputation? Talking about links, do they have too many outbound links, or are they having a lot of inbound links? Do they have any Latin characters? For example, I could replace A with the Latin A to just masquerade as a malign link. So it's important to analyze a lot of features. So the algorithms, AI models here, they'll help you achieve this.
How much of the hard work does your team have to do to understand this? One is we're talking semantics.
True.
We are talking about semiotics, the design of the whole thing. How do you manage this? A typical use case, does a client come to you and say, look, this is the problem I'm having. Do they know what they want? Or would you say that, look, let me go study and then come back to you? How does a typical engagement work for you?
Perfect. So I think at ManageEngine, so we are a part of a central team called Labs, which is the R&D team focusing on long-term AI research. So we work hand in hand with the products. Each product is a team at the corporation. So all the products that you see are who consume which is the part of the product portfolio at ManageEngine, they are like teams internally.
Yeah.
So we work closely with them. So we build the AI capabilities. The product teams have the knowledge, the domain knowledge. So these are like woven together, and the AI capabilities are shipped as features in the product.
Okay. So there's a lot of time spent with the client. That's what you're saying.
True, absolutely, yeah.
So would you say that today a must-have, a must-have is very important, or a buy-in is very important, saying I, as a CTO or CIO, or a CISO, I will spend time with people in ManageEngine and then give them access to certain things. Is it important to be proactive as a CIO, CTO today?
So
because my conversations are this. Now that I'm a business guy, I understand that there are some conversations that say, okay, we'll do this, but there's no importance thrown to it. How important is it today in the digitally transformation, or in digital transformation, or the world of business is changing? How proactive should they be?
I would say, as a CTO, CISO, it's important to understand the industry trends. But one thing I would say is, especially with respect to security, it's not about going by the hype. Just because something is in hype, it doesn't mean it's going to be.
I'm glad you said that.
Yeah. So what we feel is, yes, for example, today LLMs and agents are at the hype. I'm not brushing them off. They are absolutely useful. Their capabilities are quintessential for businesses. But especially in the field of security, not everything is an LLM problem.
Yeah.
So a lot of scenarios, they would require anomaly detection forecasting. So we're talking about finding out if there's a spike in the number of file downloads from the internal server. So this just requires an anomaly detection algorithm here. So I don't want an LLM doing anomaly detection. I could very well achieve that.
Thank you for saying that. Thank you. I mean, that sets it in perspective.
True.
That it's horses for courses. Don't go by the hype.
Exactly, yeah. So I would probably use a traditional machine learning technique here, my good old math here, to achieve the anomaly detection here per se. I don't want an LLM sitting and doing anomaly detection here. Similarly is the case with forecasting. Let's say I want to get a ballpark estimate of how much traffic would my app server receive in the next month. Let's say I'm hosting a sale next month and I want to be prepared. I don't want to be taken in for a surprise. With my app service not responding properly for the enough traffic. So it's important to have a ballpark estimate. So all of this requires forecasting. Again, I don't want an LLM doing forecasting. I could probably achieve that with my machine learning, traditional machine learning techniques.
That's beautifully said. There are three things. When do you need LLMs for AI?
Perfect. So I would say the LLMs have this innate capability to generate content, to summarize. So those summarization capabilities, the chain of thought, this is where we feel the generative AI LLM capabilities will help. So we'll take an example. Let's say I have a ticketing portal, a help desk portal, and I am the technician out there who has a huge pile of tickets. So the first line of defense for me to fix the tickets would be to refer to previous tickets that were closed, whose responses were satisfactory, or refer to articles in my knowledge base or articles in the FAQ pages. Construct a response that contextually understands what the query is about, understands what's being there in the knowledge base, in the FAQ, and then construct a response as the first line of defense. So this is where generative AI comes into play. Yeah. It can understand the context and generate a response by looking at all of these data sources.
So this is for the CTO to just query.
Exactly. It could be for the CTO, it could be for the head of system administration, head of IT, who's kind of trying to get a big picture. In fact, in tools like your analytics tool, you could have like one-stop dashboard that gives you enough insights about how many queries were raised, how many were satisfactory, how many queries priority was.
That's critical IT.
Exactly.
That's
so you need
now I know a one-stop solution.
Exactly.
That's where LLMs come into play.
I would say LLMs can give you a crisp summary, generate insights from that. Yeah.
Correct me. LLMs now can also be used to dynamically fight malware. Can we use LLMs for that?
No, I think
not yet.
Not yet. I mean, even for we were talking about malware.
Because they figure out patterns, right?
It's exactly. Yes. Yeah. So it's about figuring out patterns. But do I need, is the GPU tax really worth it there? That's the question. See, we'll talk about from the enterprise perspective.
Affordable GPUs are the key.
No, affordable GPUs is one thing, but in the B2C segment, you can afford to have too many large models. That's what we see in the client space, right?
Correct.
So when the LLMs were released, we saw rapid adoption in this space. But the enterprise segment typically has a late mover advantage. One reason is the data availability is going to be scarce.
Yes. And perhaps regulations. They don't want to share it.
Exactly. Too many regulations. So data availability is going to be scarce. And because data availability by itself is scarce, it is not going to offset the compute cost that comes with these large language models. Right? So this is one thing that we see. So talking about an example that we were talking about malware, it's more about understanding how the malware is interacting with the system, understanding the patterns. We still feel malware detection and all of it could be achieved using our traditional machine learning techniques by itself. Ideally, we wouldn't really want an LLM doing it here.
Correct. I got it. Now it makes perfect sense for me, the podcast today. Those watching this, if you're CTOs, CIOs, please understand that you often don't need an LLM to manage a security issue. It can also be a rule-based engine, a mathematical model.
It could.
But
I wouldn't
you
say
can take
rule-based.
LLM for your queries.
Yeah.
Get a dashboard.
Yeah, so I would say not rule-based per se.
Pardon,
your traditional machine, traditional statistical machine learning techniques. They do a lot of job. They do solve a lot of use cases.
Okay.
Yes, LLMs are useful. They could help you in summarizing, generating quick content, giving you insights. Yes. But it's important to analyze use cases. It has to be done on a per case basis. Just because LLM is a hype doesn't mean you plug in LLM in every other use case that you encounter.
I understand. At what stage will AI security, in a sense, you have a general intelligence that can say, okay, you deployed me, I'll handle it for you. Where are we in that science fiction kind of use case?
So I think the direction points to, in the enterprise segment that we see, I think agents will kind of be fitting in here. So too much talk about agents. So what we...
Too much talk about agentic. Actually, there's too much. Suddenly from January 1st, 2025, everybody's talking agentic suddenly.
True.
Last year was generative AI. Last couple of years, now agentic.
Agentic AI, yeah.
It's the hype. Don't go with the hype.
So what we would say is, yes, agents are going to be very important to businesses. That's the reason we launched Zia Agents, Agent Studio, and Marketplace here. So Zia agents are, I'll talk about agents first and then come here.
Yeah, please.
So you can think of agents giving you the much needed contextual intelligence, I would say.
I agree.
So you can think of agents comprising as having LLM capabilities, generative AI capabilities, and you could have other capabilities too, anomaly detection, forecasting, optical character recognition, and whatnot. So many skills, or the depth that we talk about AI capabilities. And then you have the data source. So here it could mean a lot of contextual data, right? So I have a UEMS solution, I have a USM help desk portal, and then I have my monitoring software. And let's say I'm an administrator, or I'm the CIO or CTO trying to understand what is the current state of IT. And I say, hey, how many tickets were raised with respect to this server? The server details would be there in the monitoring system. The ticketing details would be there in my help desk system. Yes. So all of this data has to be stitched together contextually, and only then would you get the required data for business context.
I understand.
Right? And then you have the tools, the APIs, the workflows to achieve this. So this is how we envision agents. This is how agents would be. And now that you have LLM capabilities, AI capabilities, contextual data, and workflow all sitting together, they could help you achieve the business intelligence.
No, I think a CTO should spend time with you. And this is the reason why I'm loving this conversation. I was confused. I thought, okay, there's a world of LLMs. AI can now handle security at speed. It'll do it by itself. But no, it's not easy. It's easier said than done. It's much more complex.
Yeah. So AI is going to help you go that extra speed, extra mile to ensure the security posture of the organization is really good. So like I was saying, we have a shift from reactive to proactive. Yes. And how do you achieve that shift? You take a stand before something. You try to find out that there's a data exfiltration attack before you let the entire data go out. Or you catch off that one malware that's kind of getting into one endpoint before it floods all the other endpoints. So using AI, I can find out, hey, let's say an organization has like 50 employees. So you have some 50 devices, 50 laptops to be secured, handle these endpoints.
Got it.
Exactly. So let's say one laptop is infested with malware. How do I have to ensure the rest of the 49 devices are secure. So let's say I'll have to catch off that this laptop A is infected with malware. So what do I do next? Should I cut off the internet access? Should I have something in my firewall up and running? How do I do that? So this is where AI can help you. So the goal is to use AI to help predict the next best action in security.
Yeah, Sujatha, the last 30 minutes or so, I've learned so much, and there are many more questions.
Perfect.
We ended at endpoints, but I have to start at the endpoint again. For me, endpoints was about devices, because I covered the bring your own device world where people sold security. Again, it was a to-have and not must-have, because the world changed, trends, and you were right in saying that never follow a trend. You need to know why you're using this.
Correct.
So endpoints today have gone into many levels. There's an API also, which is an endpoint, because a lot of people are calling APIs, right? So for you, define all these endpoints according to ManageEngine, and what should a CTO or CIO or CISO again look at? And when it comes to endpoints, it's not just those laptops and mobile phones.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, like you rightly said, endpoints are not just devices today. It's endpoints could be your weakest link. It's accessible anywhere. It could go in for a toss. So it's important to secure them first. Understand your organizational need there. And especially when talking about endpoint, security should be at the forefront, right? Protect yourself against malware. Just think about ransomwares and the kind of ransom that they ask for in case they're in for an attack.
I like the humor there. The ransom is terribly expensive.
It's terribly expensive. And putting costs apart, think of the reputation dent that you could possibly face. That puts a huge dent on the business in the form of reputation loss.
So they hold your reputation at ransom. Right?
I would say that. that kind of brings in businesses start doubting your security posture and say, oh, they were just in for the attack. What kind of security posture are they maintaining? So it's important that you evaluate solutions and whether you build or buy solutions, that depends on which vertical you are. But in case you choose to buy, or you have to have a tech partner who understands deep R&D, who doesn't just go by the hype, who evaluates the use cases and then plugs in the much needed AI. That would be the need of the hour in the security space.
I think that's where people like ManageEngine come in. Right?
Absolutely.
For a person, I might be a good CTO, but having no ego apart, I can come and say, look, I have these issues. Can you help me? Because my customers are using these endpoint devices. They sometimes bring it to my organization. I'm talking from the B2B side. There are employees, there are customers, there are outside laptops, there are devices. Then there's these API calls that everybody does in a low-code movement, right? Yeah. So that's the key, right? So understand these things. So where do you step in there?
So
you personally and your team, I just want some insight. How do you guys step in?
Perfect. So I think, as part of the central research team, we're focused on how AI can help you strengthen your security posture by talking about malware, ransomware. So the goal of ransomware is to quickly encrypt data before you kind of decrypt it. So this is where AI comes into plug. So as the central research team, we're focused on day in, day out research, finding out which models to deploy, what is the accuracy. Can this really help strengthen the posture of the organization? How will this fit into my product portfolio as a feature in the ManageEngine's portfolio? So we have the endpoint management solution, we have the monitoring solution. So this is how our work as a central research team goes on.
And you're doing this for 13 years, man. Really, R&D, right?
Absolutely.
The organization's doing it for 13 years now. It's not like it cropped up today.
Exactly. So at ManageEngine, we've been on AI research for almost 13 plus years now. So it's not like AI capabilities mushroom the very next day. So we
called it differently then.
Absolutely. So
big data is what I used to write about.
True. So initially it was called as big data, then came Hadoop. Then it was machine learning, then deep learning, neural networks, LLMs, agentic AI. I think it's just that the terminology that has changed over the years, but AI has been here in the products. So in fact, if you look into ManageEngine's portfolio, we have something called as Ask Zia, which is the conversational interface in the products that is embedded contextually. So these conversational capabilities are AI powered. It's just that it's been there forever. Now that AI is seeing rapid adoption thanks to the compute that is available at throwaway prices, people are realizing that, oh, there's an AI feature. I would need this. But AI has been there for always.
No, I'm glad, in this entire conversation now, I'm going to reiterate that if you want to use AI, there are different ways to use it. You can apply machine learning if you want. Then you can really use LLMs, which is real AI at this point of time. You can use that as well, right? And I'm glad you've drawn these examples very well. And how many of the clients really understand this? The customers, how many of them understand that, okay, I'll use LLMs for a certain context. I'll use machine learning for a certain context. And again, I'm tying back these endpoints. At different stages, you can use different things.
Perfect.
Again, I'm talking about an entire AI stack.
Yeah.
Are we talking about a new AI stack in security?
Right.
Or would you say again, like big data, it's become something else in security now?
No, I think with respect to consumers' requirement,
customers
requirement, they are not bothered if I'm using an LLM or am I achieving it using a traditional machine learning technique.
Thank you for putting it out there.
All that they are bothered is, does it make my job easier?
Okay.
Is it bringing in relevance to me? So just because something is the hype, it doesn't have to be plugged in. It's more about carefully evaluating what the customer's requirements are.
Yes.
In fact, that's what at at ManageEngine, we personally believe owning the entire tech stack. So, for example, we own the entire data center, the applications, the AI models, everything here is built in-house.
That's the advantage.
Exactly. In fact, that gives us an advantage that now that we are in a security and privacy-aware world where there's a lot of focus on data sharing, you have to be compliant to a lot of regulations, and the regulations are differing from each geography. And being a company that caters to various geographical locations, and we have to be compliant to a lot of regulations. So owning the entire tech stack, developing that deep R&D, this has really helped us because we own the entire data center. We have complete oversight on the data flow that happens.
And I think CTOs would appreciate the fact that you guys do all this.
Exactly.
Right? And it's not as if they have to run to a million other places and say, oh.
Exactly.
So that's
so with respect to enterprise IT management, ManageEngine would be like a one-stop solution. So you have the entire SIEM solutions, USM, ITOM, everything plugged in here.
Okay. You asked me earlier that, look, there are some fears, right? Cross-user data sharing is one of the fears that everybody talks about, especially CTOs, CIOs.
Correct.
Would you want to throw light on this?
Absolutely. So again, so like you were saying, we were transitioned from a good to have to must have. So there's a lot of awareness on security. We don't really sign up anywhere and everywhere. We're very cautious about the sites that we're signing up for. And shift that to the enterprise landscape, we have a lot of focus on privacy, compliance, security guidelines. So I think we had GDPR some time back, which has a huge focus on right to forget, the right to process data. There was a lot of guidelines on that. And as ManageEngine, ManageEngine caters to a lot of geographies. We are compliant with a lot of laws. So what I would say is, because we own the entire data center, and in fact, we took privacy seriously even before privacy was a thing. So we have very stringent security and privacy guidelines in place. So for example, we have no cross-organization or cross-user data sharing. So what I mean is, if a model is built for you, it is only for you. The model will not be used for the betterment of someone else or some other organization.
I got it.
So this way you can ensure data that's used for you is only for you.
Which is a big argument, right? I mean, you also spoke about the compute side of data.
Exactly.
And now this is about all this chairmen and CEOs watching this would love to appreciate that this LLM, is it mine or is it going to be used to train other things as well?
True.
I remember an health plan. One of my clients is in a health plan, a tech company that handles health plans. And they were saying, okay, if you run our models on a chat GPT, even if it's a script, that's a problem.
True.
I'm saying this because they were really concerned. They don't want the LLM to take their data and train it for something else.
Exactly.
That's a problem.
True. That's why here, when we train models, especially LLMs, we ensure it is only trained on open source commercial data sets. Data sets that are allowed for commercial usage. So this way, there is no user data that kind of goes into the models.
This is really well said because India is now investing in deep science. A lot of the PhDs are being funded. They should appreciate that if you're a drone company and you want to work with ManageEngine, your LLM is yours.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
It's not going to, or if you're a bank and new age bank and with ManageEngine, you don't have to worry about the LLM being trained for other things. It's yours.
Exactly. Whatever data that's used to train model for yours, it's strictly for yours. In fact, before data even goes into the model for inference or prediction, we ensure the data is completely anonymized. So any possible PII, personal identifiable information is stripped off before it is passed to the models for inference. And data that resides in our systems, they are strictly encrypted at rest. So we can assure you the privacy and security posture that we hold here is of very stringent standard.
Okay. What's this ZIA agent that people talk about in ManageEngine?
Perfect. So given that agents are really helpful in the business context, we've introduced something called as ZIA agents. So these are going to be agents with pre-built capabilities that are offered by ManageEngine and Zoho Corporation. And then we have something called as Agent Studio. So Agent Studio is where...
It's a studio in a sense people can build?
Exactly. So it's a platform, more like a platform where customers, partners, they can come and build agents on this Agent Studio.
Their own environments.
Exactly. And they could use of pre-built capabilities, AI capabilities that are available. They could make use of all of that and build their own agents in the Agent Studio. And these agents that are built here, they will be published in a place called Agent Marketplace. think of it as an app store.
The old app store, like
exactly,
okay.
yeah. So where it's more of like a marketplace where I can publish agents and other customers or partners they can come and use it.
Have you created that ecosystem?
Oh yeah, it's available. So we are piloting it with businesses, and we'll see how to take it forward.
That's great. Now I want to talk about customers on the B2B side, on the B2C side, and I know Zoho has customers across Zoho ManageEngine. There are these, we are in the consumer world, whether you like it or not. It's the consumer technology companies that are influencing even the B2B enterprise companies. So let's talk about these AI journeys with security in these B2B companies and B2C companies. I'll leave it to you to paint the picture here. The typical behavior when somebody comes to you from the retail side or the enterprise manufacturing side, what are the typical questions they ask, and what is their journey with AI security?
Perfect. So one thing that organizations unanimously look at is how compliant you are to that geographical
okay, it's all compliances. It starts there.
The first thing that they see is compliance, because it all goes by the rule book, right? Yeah. So because the person who's evaluating is going to be answerable to the CTO or CIO. They'll have to do a checkbox ticking. I evaluated the solution. This is compliant by GDPR. This is compliant by so-and-so act that's prevalent in that geography.
They have to make sure that's there first.
Exactly. Okay. Yeah. So they are looking for it. They're also looking at the security posture of the offering that's been there.
Okay.
So they're seeing how, so for example, at ManageEngine, we take security very seriously. So we write something called as DPIA, Data Protection Impact Assessment, for every feature that clearly documents what kind of data was the model trained on, what is the data scope, what is the data flow, who's going to be responsible. So all of this is published internally to the compliance and legal teams. And we in fact have very frequent internal and external audits too, to ensure the privacy and security posture is completely...
Your team must be very smart, with a bunch of smart people researching this, right?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, there are new regulations cropping up so frequently, so it's important to ensure all of the criteria is met properly.
And tell us a little bit about your team. I'd love to appreciate people who work for you and with you, Ada. You said they have to keep in touch with the regulations. They're not just technology people, but they have to understand regulation.
Exactly.
They have to understand how people use the product also. So what's the typical thought process of learning with you? What's a typical day like with your team?
Perfect. So I would say 40% or at least 60% of our time goes off in research. See, today the research is happening at such a rapid pace. Yeah, you have like one research paper coming in and saying this is the state of the art. Yes. And then 2 days later, you have another paper saying, no, that's just not happening. This is the latest thing. So there's a lot of rapid learning, keeping up with the innovation here. It involves reading research papers for which math is going to be the base here. Yeah, foundation here. See, at the end of the day, even neural networks are residing on math. Yes. The entire back propagation, all of it involves a lot of calculus here. So for us, math is the foundation. One more reason is that I would say when training models, bringing them to 80-85% accuracy is easier. You have a lot of tooling, a lot of open source today. You could start off. But going from the 85% to 100%, or not 100% accuracy, but 85% to 93, 94, that's going to be difficult. Unless or until you really understand the math behind it. What exactly is the model learning? How do I ensure the accuracy is really improving? For that, the math is going to be important. So we do a lot of research paper reading. We prototype those papers and see, are we kind of getting there, or should we take some other path? In fact, the journey doesn't just end with writing code, reading papers. It's also about putting the models to production, because we serve billions of customers. We have billions of calls per month. So how do I scale my systems? How am I going to ensure we are catering to the demand? So this is our usual
thought
work.
Process now on. I'm glad you're part of that brilliant team there. Many customers, of course, ManageEngine has many. My thought is, where is this journey heading in terms of, these are typical leadership questions I want to ask you. Where do you see, because you're a fan of math, where do you see the world heading in with AI? It's here to stay, correct?
True.
You can't escape it.
AI is here to stay. It's going to probably give you a massive, from an engineering perspective, I would say there's going to be a massive developer productivity. So
I agree.
So a lot of developer time would be spent on writing a lot of boilerplate code. So that could be now offloaded to AI. But that does not mean that AI is going to do the entire job. Generative AI or LLMs can help you write a piece of code. But again, the onus is on the developer to understand what the code does.
The context.
What the code does. I could probably ask the generative AI model here to write a code for finding prime numbers, but I have to understand if the code is really right, or is there any loophole, any possible optimizations that could be done. That has to be understood by the developers. So I think the skills are going to be very important.
And when you say understand a prime number, real world use cases, figuring out if there's an attack or not.
True, exactly.
Or whether it's a false positive.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So talking about AI models, our job doesn't end with just writing a model, putting to production. You'll have to test it out in the real world. How accurate is it? Are we getting too many false positives? If there are too many false positives, how are you going to retrain your model? Given the fact that data scarcity is going to be there, I can't plug in any data to my model.
Especially on the enterprise side.
Enterprise side, yeah. Yes. So how am I going to better my models? How am I going to optimize them? So this is something that demands a lot of technical understanding.
Which is good for me, right? I think it's for the first time humans can really truly go after knowledge and leave the base stuff.
Exactly.
The grunt work.
Exactly, yeah. So I think I would say maybe writing a lot of boilerplate code could be done using AI, but
I want to correct myself. A lot of people will say because I said base stuff can be offloaded to AI, it doesn't mean your foundation has to be weak.
True, exactly. You rightly said it. You cannot, especially when AI is here, you cannot afford to have your foundation weak. The understanding has to be solid.
Yes.
It's just that you might not have to write the same code again and again. You could probably leave the code writing to AI, but you'll still have to understand what that code does. In fact, when talking about putting things to production, how am I going to scale? Let's say my demand is, I have a surge of requests. Am I going to scale horizontally or am I going to scale vertically? If I'm going to add more machines, what is going to be the spec? Should I add a 32 GB machine? Should I add a 64 GB machine? How many cores should each machine have? There's a lot of knowledge, solid understanding that's required here.
And I'm glad you're a mathematician yourself, aren't you? You like math.
I absolutely love math.
You still are a student of math. Right? I want to get into, we talked so much enterprise and everything. We've covered mostly everything, but I want to talk about you. I can't let you go. When did you fall in love with maths? I mean, was it from your father, mother, or was it just an innate thing?
Oh, I think I would attribute my math interest to my father. He was a banker. So naturally, numbers was what he was working with when he was in the banking sector. So I think I had a love towards math from my schooling days.
Was he your first guru?
Absolutely.
Did he teach you algebra, calculus and all that?
No, he didn't, but he did try. He did make me understand what loan rate was.
That's good. So you know interest rates.
Interest rates, what is MCLR, what is all of that, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so I started having a fascination towards math right from him. And I totally enjoyed my math paper in my 11th and 12th. And that's the reason I took all my math electives in college. That sort of helped me build the foundation for AI. Yeah.
Okay, what do you want to do with, math is the foundation. You're telling all the kids watching this, don't be scared of math.
Don't be scared of math. Math is not a monster. So I think, if you start enjoying math, you'll see a lot of real life applications. So for example, when you construct a house, there's certain inclination at which your steps should be positioned. Which place do you put your beams or your pillars? Trigonometry, exactly. All of this, all your sine theta, cos theta is still relevant.
Okay.
Yeah, so I would say that.
She said, go learn it. Now, the information's available. You can actually learn it. Now depend on that one teacher who's bad to you, perhaps.
Exactly. So your school math understanding doesn't have to be, dependent on the faculty.
Yes, so there's no barrier anymore.
True. And you have so much learning material. You can always go and watch your favorite video or read a book, whichever works for them.
Okay, quick thought again, back to your team. A lot of kids will come and you'll obviously be hiring. And when they come on board, do they say, I'm scared of math, I'm good at coding, but would you say that they learn math with you?
Yes.
Or do you have to train them?
Oh, no. Our hiring process, with respect to hiring, we've generally had a very cautious strategy. So when we hire, the quality that we look for is, do they have a solid understanding? Do they have a solid understanding of math or computer science per se? Mm-hmm. You don't have to be master in all languages. It's okay if you know only Java it's okay if you know only Python. But are you really good at it? Do you understand what each thing in that language does? Do you have a solid understanding of data structures, algorithms? Because these are going to be pioneering the entire business application, right? So
I'm going to think that in a few years you'll be writing papers on the subject with all the clients that you observe, right? have you thought about it?
Maybe. I think I'll just probably put it in my roadmap.
Great. So, apart from mathematics, and you're inspired by family, of course, your dad especially, do you read books? Do you get time to, watch movies? Or what do you get inspired by? As an AI person. I want to call you an AI scientist, but how do you spend time apart from doing math and other things?
Oh, I think I generally watch movies with my family. I think some talking about women, tech and all. I think I read this book by Sheryl Sandberg. I think it was Lean In, where she spoke a lot about...
Did that have an influence on you?
Oh, yes, absolutely. I loved her. I mean, I loved her stand where she said, don't wait for that moment to come to you. You have to step in, lean in, start engaging in conversations, reach out to people. I loved her stand.
And nothing wrong in that. You should reach out.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Right? A lot of our people may be good at math, but they should communicate like you.
Exactly.
So lean in.
True.
Sheryl Sandberg wrote that book, yeah?
Yeah, Lean In. I think that was the book's title.
Okay. That's the only thing that you read off late or something else?
I think I also read this book by Michelle Obama. I don't remember the title.
I haven't read that book. I know what you mean, but there's a very famous book she's written. It's her memoir of sorts.
Yeah, I think it's her biography. I don't remember the book's name.
It doesn't matter. I'll put it in the description, but that's amazing. So Sheryl Sandberg, Michelle Obama.
Michelle Obama's book, yeah.
So what comes easy to you? Is it mathematics or reading, or given a chance, would you say that, look, I want to take a break from all this also at some point?
I think I would really love doing math day in, day out.
That's amazing.
That's something that resonates with me. That's the reason I completely enjoy my job. I would love to do math day in, day out. Yeah.
So there you go. That's the summary, guys. If you're into AI and security and you're confused about it, just contact her. Okay, and ManageEngine, of course. I hope you've enjoyed this podcast. Send in your questions, guys, and that's important to us. We'll get her to answer it for you. Sujatha, you've been wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Vishal, for having me here. I loved this conversation.
Thank you.